Jay, it's great to see you again. We had such a good time and we were so impressed with your accuracy and detail and musical knowledge generally that Pontus and I looked at each other and said, we have to get this guy back. And we have a wonderful excuse to get you back because Angelina, in the last week, has just dropped an album which we have all been very excited about, and you have virgin ears. Your ears are completely not exposed to Angelina, and we are going to get a very real, raw, elaborate, wonderful reaction from you today. And so all systems go.
Yeah, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. The timing just worked out so beautifully. But yes, I did hold off on listening to the album because I knew we would be listening to it here. But I'll take a more in-depth look at the entire thing on my channel. I'm a little busy with teaching, but I'll get it out there at some point.
Jay, are you busy with vocal coaching?
Throughout the week, I teach at a university, music technology type of concept. And then I also work as a contractor for the National Orchestra out here in the States.
Wow.
So that keeps me really quite busy.
Jay, give me a little 30-second overview of what it means, which rabbit holes you go down when you teach music technology.
Any of the softwares that are specifically created or used for the making or analyzation of music. So I have two different courses that I teach. I have one that's for complete beginner musicians that don't know anything about the field of music technology. So I teach them the basics of MuseScore, notation software, so that they can write their own parts, or maybe they need assistance with oral skills. And then I teach them the intro parts of a DAW, a digital audio workstation, where most records are conceived. And then I have another course that's similar to that, but we go more in depth with the science of audio and how it works all together. And in that one, I focused a lot more on Pro Tools, that specific DAW, because that's the industry standard DAW that you'll find in any professional studio.
Right.
Wow.
Because I'm a little bit older than you, I remember in the 80s when techno music came out, and that genre, as I understood it, was very specifically computer-generated music. That's 40 years ago. And so it's hard for me to imagine what's gone on behind the scenes in the last 40 years as far as that. And I know everyone talks about auto-tuning all the time. When Cher sings Believe, the whole point of that song is because it's auto-tuned. And so I realized that the bending of music is an art form in itself.
One thing that I preach a lot to students is that there's a huge difference between the live performance aspect and a record. They're very similar, but the comparison I like to use is there's a big difference between theater and the movie version of said film. Because when you are in live theater, we're already suspending our disbelief for a little bit. And performers can get away with a lot more, if you will, because there's emotions involved. There's a real life aspect to things. Whereas with the film, we're going to get a lot of post-production. Details really matter, but you're able to tell the story in like a slightly different way.
Yeah, because I do the editing, and I actually like editing the video that we make, because the last 15 years, my wife writes poetry, and I'm her first line of editing. And so the skills that I have in editing her poetry, I bring to video. And my main priority is to cut away the dead wood and to make it flow.
That's kind of how I approach editing too. It's very similar to how I approach music. There's this rule where every couple of seconds something has to change, otherwise the audience can get a little bit bored. We know we did a lot of different takes to get to that video, but it still needs to feel like it's one seamless thing. But I didn't know that singers didn't just go in there and sing the track one time through.
Only Angelina does that. Everyone else takes 12 hours for recording.
So I've heard there's oddities like Adele and other big time singers like that will every once in a while be able to do a track like that. Like I think Rumor Has It was recorded that way.
Blessed up, so you got your head in the clouds. You made a fool out of you, and boy, she's bringing you down. She made your heart melt, but you're cold to the core. Now rumor has it she ain't got your love anymore. Rumor has it. Rumor has it.
Have you heard anything from the album?
No, I've held off on purpose.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how much do you know about the making of it or the stories around it?
Not much other than literally what you've just said, and that it's basically a jazz album, more so on that side versus a pop album.
This album that Angelina's put out is based on her grandma's poetry, basically.
Well, do you remember when we interviewed you last time and we said to you, okay, we're about to play California Dreamin' for you, and it's absolutely like nothing what you would expect. And I believe I'm in the position to say exactly the same again now. This album we're about to expose you to is like nothing that you will expect.
Wonderful.
So this album consists of 12 different songs, and we've picked 4 of them that you can listen to tonight. And I've also put together the lyrics for them so that you can follow along.
That was a great idea to attach the lyrics, Pontus, because it's like the difference between having 2 speakers and 1 speaker. It's just a different experience.
It puts a little bit pressure on you as well, that you should have something intelligent to say about poetry.
Do you think that there is a difference between poetry and songwriting, though, Alan?
Wow. Let me answer that question in a few minutes. Because after you have listened to one of her songs and you have seen the difference between what normal songwriting is and what Mary has come up with, then I think it will be a different discussion than if I answered that question now.
I went to school for it, and they taught us a very specific definition of it.
I think there is traditionally a formula for how to put together lyrics for a song, that you have the introduction and you have the chorus and you have a bridge and you have a break. And it's interesting to see artists that actually challenge that structure and go beyond.
Am I allowed to tell a joke? My father used to write poetry, and I was not a great fan of his poetry. And I used to call his poetry tactile poetry, because while he was reading it to you, he kept having to touch your arm to make sure you were still listening.
That's a good one.
Some audience interaction with that performance there.
Okay.
Let's roll them.
So yeah, this is song number 6 titled Home. So let's look at it.
Hurt me more than words could say, but I stayed and made a home. I was built to love, not leave, even when I felt alone. Used the warmth I gave you like it was yours to spend for free. But every scar you gave my heart was a deeper strength in me. I forgave you every time, not 'cause I was weak but brave inside. You took my love and crossed the line, but I still stood by your side. Each time I let you in again, you came back harder, cold as stone. But I was never made to run. I was made to make a home.
Okay, that was not what I was expecting. I was told this was a jazz album, but I'm pleasantly surprised. This is very Whitney Houston-esque, like 90s big ballads. I remember this commercial of Power Ballads with Michael Bolton and Celine Dion, where she's like, "'Cause I'm your lady."
Imagine owning the world's greatest love songs.
That's what I was expecting her to go into. That same exact vibe. Let's keep going.
You called it fate when things went wrong, but you knew just what you did. Not by chance, it was your choice. And still I always let you in. I never asked for perfect love, just honesty and grace. But you were my kindness like a mask, and vanished without a trace. And I forgave you every time, not 'cause I was weak but brave inside. You took my love and crossed the line, but I still stood by your side. Each time I let you in again, you came back harder, cold as stone. But I was never made to run. I was made to make a home. This pain, it wasn't mine to carry. It was yours all along.
So pretty. Yeah, that was not what I was expecting at all. That was so good. Wow, a lot of Whitney and Celine, specifically their kind of ballads, even the inflections that she was doing, the darker tones, the more lush quality, even the sound of the recording itself, the mix overall, it sounded more like an older type of mix. And it's a subtle distinction, but there's a lot more warmth to this record in general. Like the middle section of the frequency spectrum seems to be like very much the focus. Whereas now, if you listen to a modern record, you get a lot more highs and lows. But back then, it was all about the warmth of the overall sound. So they even preserved that part of it to give it that very vintage or classic feel, however you want to refer to that.
And I just got a sense of, is Angelina over at your place singing? Because it felt like a live session you had over there. And that's one of the things that I find with this record, that they've mixed her vocals very upfront. So the instrumentation is very low in the back and her voice is very prominent.
It's funny that you should say that this is a throwback back to the 90s, because a lot of people who have heard this album are saying that this is a throwback to the 50s, that it's even a generation before that it's a real bygone era. Interesting that you should reference Whitney Houston and Celine Dion.
Yeah, but I think this song, Alan, is one of those that feels a little bit more modern. I think the other ones are more in that era. I even said 40s when I did my reaction to the first song. So we have thrown a little bit of a curveball at you here, and one of the songs that feels a little bit more from a modern time. I was actually thinking of a name, Barry Manilow, when I heard this.
Yes, he was probably on that same record I was talking about.
Yeah.
This is probably the third time I've listened to this song with the lyrics. And to answer the question from earlier, what strikes me about this being a poem as just to song lyrics, there is no let up in the intensity. Usually with lyrics from a song, you have like an intermezzo, you have a gap where the chorus is repeated or where the listener has a little break. But the intensity of her images and the pain is without interruption.
I was actually thinking that as we got to the bridge section, one surefire way for me to know if they're really thinking about it from a songwriting perspective is if they are trying to fit too many syllables into the curvature of the melody, or if they start saying words in a funny way, like they're using the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. That's a way to tell if they've thought about it from the perspective of songwriting, because that's the big difference, is that there's still a structure and you still want it to flow smoothly. So for me, it's pretty difficult actually to write a song from the perspective of just a poem. If somebody were to say, here is this poem, I'd be like, oh, that might be tough. I might need to change some of your lyrics, but this was solid melody wise for sure.
Yeah.
But Angelina's fans have always said she can sing the phone book, and this is much better than the phone book.
I would prefer to hear this than the phone book.
But didn't the cooperation, Elton John and Bernie Taupin, wasn't that a cooperation where Bernie would just put out some lyrics and then Elton would just do the arrangement based on that?
We used to see that a lot more actually in the very beginning early jazz era songs. My mind immediately goes to Rodgers and Hart or Rodgers and Hammerstein. They wrote My Funny Valentine, which a lot of angels really love from her. Although now it's hard to tell because there are teams involved in the writing process, but it's a much larger team. So it's harder to say who's doing what in the situation.
On the Lower West Side in Manhattan, there is a very famous building called the Brill Building, and they had teams of songwriters there in the 60s, and a lot of singer-songwriters started out there.
Yeah, a similar situation with Rodgers and Hammerstein. They called it Tin Pan Alley. A lot of great music came from that era.
I have the theory that the singer-songwriter doing the music and the lyrics, because it has to be a smoother fit than two separate people doing the lyrics and the music. I think of Bob Dylan. Nobody could write lyrics for Bob Dylan. He himself has to do it. And there are a lot of singers who write the lyrics and then do their music. And for me, it seems a more natural fit.
I definitely agree with that. Even now, I feel weird singing covers because I have to think about it from the original artist perspective. Why did they do it this way? Whereas with whatever I write, I'm like, well, I wrote it this way and I know exactly why and I know my intentions behind it. So it's a different kind of approach altogether. But I definitely feel the difference when the performer is involved in the writing aspect.
In the last year or two, I've given a lot of thought to the nature of covers because Angelina Jordan, 90% of her music are covers. And basically, I think she hears a song and she really likes it and she wants to pay her respects to it. And that's why she covers it. As opposed to, oh, I have a thought of how this song can be improved. I don't think that's on Angelina's radar. I don't think she goes in that direction at all.
I don't either. Otherwise, she would be doing what we see on the X Factors or American Idols, those type of shows.
I consider the people who come to those shows to be overly dramatic in their performances.
When it comes to Angelina, I've never gotten the sense of like, oh, I'm better than this artist, so I'm going to kill this.
Speaking of dramatic, I think one of the highlights in this song is when she sings the word pain at the end. She really elaborates that word. Of course, that's an important aspect of the storytelling there.
This pain.
And the other impression I have from these lyrics, I think maybe because it is a poem rather than because it's simply a song, it is intensely personalized, much more than a normal song is.
I'm curious because the lyric, I was made to make a home.
But in my view, making a home is her grandmother's side of things.
That's true.
Should we move on to the next one?
So this is track 7, Kiss Me One Last Time.
Yeah.
Kiss me one last time, my love, before I walk into the night. Hold me once more in your arms before I chase the winds of life. Our love burned out before it bloomed. The past can't hold us anymore. And now I follow destiny through distant hills and open shore. I made a vow beneath the stars with mountain winds and sailor songs to light a flame upon the peaks and brave the storms, however long. If ever tears fall from your eyes, let them bloom upon the dawn. For every step I take away, I carry you forever on. Kiss me, my only one, and let this be our final dance. Be wrapped in light and bless your dreams as I move on past circumstance. Though fate may call me far from home, in your heart I still belong. So kiss me one last time, my love, before the sky forgets the dawn.
This one is definitely a more 50s aesthetics. I love these lyrics. I love lyrics that have like this, it kind of humanizes the elements or nature. I think that strikes me as beautiful imagery. Before the sky forgets the dawn. Such a gorgeous statement. I love that.
The echo lingers on your name in every breeze in falling rain. No map can lead me back to you, but still I dream and dream in vain. The stars look down with quiet eyes as if they know what we became. Two souls who touched and slipped apart, yet burned with one eternal flame. And if the night forgets my face and morning comes without my trace, don't let your heart believe I'm gone. I live in every silent place. If ever tears fall from your eyes, let them bloom upon the dawn. For every step I take away, I carry you forever on.
I mean, you can feel the Elvis influence in that, right? Like they had to be going for that type of reference with that melody and the instrumentation.
Another artist I was thinking about was Roy Orbison.
Yes, I can see that. He's very similar vocal timbre, very dark, pretty woman. Even if he's singing a more up-tempo song, it's right here in the vowel shape. Which Angelina does. It's like the warm kind of round sound. I always think of the Unchained Melody performance. That's my favorite tone that I hear from her.
So far.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, my love, my darling, I've hungered for your touch.
Jay, would you say Angelina has gone into crooning mode so far with what you've heard?
With this one, yes, for sure. Even the last one as well, but this one especially.
How would you describe crooning?
My like go-to example would be Nat King Cole.
When I fall in love, it will be forever. Or I'll never fall in love.
It's just a very smooth, warm, romantic sound to it. The whole point is to just deliver the melody in a way that's just seamless, very smooth, very alluring for whoever it's being sung to listen to.
Like a serenade.
Somebody mentioned torch song.
Same idea. That's a very jazz term. It's another word for a ballad.
in this song, there's a lot of lyrics. And I think it's very obvious that it's based on a poem.
I don't get the feeling that she's trying to put a square into a circle. I don't get the feeling that she's using a crowbar to push all the lyrics into the song. Because the words are short and because they're very accessible, it flows.
Yeah, and the melody and how she sings it is very flowy, almost like a wave.
But it really is a collaboration. And as many of the Angels said recently, they both needed to do this album and they needed to do it together.
I know a big Angie fan, Chris Walker, he said that one of the lines used the word circumstance.
That's what I was just thinking. Because when it came up, I was like, oh, that is a very interesting word to use. You don't hear it in current songs nowadays. As I move on, per circumstance.
Yeah, not just circumstance, per circumstance.
If you're going for this very vintage feel, you also want to use language from that time period.
If I watch a movie from the 30s and 40s, it's like 2 or 3 generations ago. The way they speak is different. It's like every line is staccato. It's really sharp and clipped, and people don't speak like that anymore. So that's evolved.
Yeah, they don't have Katharine Hepburn voice anymore. It's very, like everybody now is just kind of down here. It's a very weird thing that's occurred with speech. Everybody like kind of mumbles now.
If you'll allow me to give you a Bob Dylan quote, he said, "Language is like an organism. It is constantly evolving."
Should we carry on?
All right, so this is track 8, When I Come Back.
One day I'll come back, not with fame, not with gold, just a suitcase of silence and a heart growing old. I missed all the birthdays, the faces I adore, but the dream of returning still knocks on my door. No medals to show, no cheers from the crowd, just footsteps behind me and promises loud. The doctor said no, but my heart said go. So I fly every night where memories glow. I am no soldier with guns, but I fought in my mind through the cold, through the silence, through people unkind. I still see a porch and a sunset so white. Your voice in the wind on the old riverside. So save me a chair in the light of the sun, a soft little smile when hard days are done. And if I don't make it, tell them I tried. I still look up at every sky. Wait for me, love. Miracles, they come late, but they come.
It's funny. I didn't want to stop it. It's so funny how they have this vintage time period that they're going for here, but some things never really seem to change. I feel like nowadays people are so consumed and wrapped up in their own universes that it's easy to miss big events of other people around you. It's easy to get caught up in the other things that deter you from what you probably should be focusing on. I really like also with this song how she followed the metaphor through, meaning that all of the language and terms that she was using have to do with people that have to go away, like soldiers returning, crowds cheering. So it all just made sense together with the concept. So that's another big thing with songwriters. Do the lyrics, the kind of imagery that they're using, does it make sense with the overall point and narrative of the song?
To me, a 20 or 30-year-old writing lyrics would not have this level of regret about things which have happened in the past. To me, this is a more mature writer who has lived more of a life looking back. A 20, 30-year-old would not have this level of regret with what has gone past.
Yeah, I feel like they'd still be angry about the situation. I mean, you wouldn't have the mature retrospect that you have now.
I got a sense of a Christmas sense from the melody of this one. It reminds me of one of those old classics with Nat King Cole or even Bing Crosby or something. She's a great fan of Christmas. She's done Christmas albums and Christmas concerts, and we're all rooting for her to do another Christmas album.
I feel like as a fan of jazz, you kind of have to be because that's where you get paid. That's where all the gigs come in.
But looking at it at a wider perspective, originally Mary, who is the songwriter, she grew up in Iran. And I believe it is most likely that, like many other Iranians, she left her home country. And I think that level of forced departure when she was 18 years old, where you have to leave your homeland, I think if you keep that in mind, I think it flavors a lot of her lyrics. Because if you layer the cultural history on top of something, it just brings something more to light.
Could explain the overall theme of things.
She has every right to look back with regret. And if she talks about love, love is on so many levels. There is romantic love and there is love of one's home and one's home country.
One of the things when you're listening to Angelina is you need something to happen every other minute or two because otherwise it gets boring. And she really excels at giving us surprisingly great phrasing. When she sings a chair, that phrase alone, a chair.
She puts floral arrangements on every word.
Yeah.
So save me a chair in the light of the sun.
And then, of course, this surprising ending, which is very almost ominous.
Miracles, they come late, but they come.
The fact that she's saying those lyrics rather than singing is a different way of emphasizing it. It's the equivalent of putting an exclamation point at the end because we listen to it more intently because it's her spoken voice rather than singing.
And also, isn't that like a retro throwback to some of the songs that they used to have some spoken ingredients?
Actually, it caught me off guard because I sometimes forget what she's what her speaking voice sounds like. So I was like, who is this for a second?
Yeah.
I keep trying to wrap my head around why they did it that way. That was a really interesting choice there.
One of the interpretations I think about is something to do with the whole business of getting free from Republic Records. Okay, now I'm on my own and we're just hoping that this will be something huge now, that we can stand on our own feet, and it's almost a miracle to be able to do an album like this without any support.
One of the things with writing poetry is to make it ambiguous, to make it open to many different interpretations. so that the reader, or in this case, the listener, can interpret it as they wish. It just makes it more universal.
Yeah, that's a trademark of art.
Yeah. I want to touch back on what Pontus just said, Republic Records, because that whole thing happens a lot more often than people probably talk about. And I don't think that people really even understand why we hear so many things about why are artists nowadays even signing to record labels. Making music, it's expensive, it's time consuming. Making a record like this, even with just 12 songs, that doesn't sound like that much, but it really is. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of energy, it's a lot of people involved. So the reason that artists still go to record labels is because they take care of a lot of the external aspects of making music so that you as a creative can focus on the creative aspects and putting music out there. They take care of things like marketing as well and all the branding, which most artists don't like doing personally. I hate posting about my music. I hate posting on TikTok or IG or any of that kind of stuff. I understand why I have to do it, but I'm a musician. I want to focus on music. So that's why a lot of musicians get into the record label in the first place. But what happens is if the record label starts to stop believing in you, or they just feel like their money is better spent elsewhere, they will shelve you just so that other labels cannot have you. They just want to hold on to you just in case. And another artist that I talk about a lot on my channel is Ray. I love her. Love her. And she's somebody that was writing and singing songs on big EDM records and not even being credited there. She was on the radio and not being credited as the vocalist for that track. So when she left Polydor Records and released her record, My 21st Century Blues, it completely swept at the Brit Awards. So I'm hoping something similar can come about for Angelina. I think people should understand that and just like how the industry works, because the record label thing, for a lot of singers, that is like a miracle, a dream come true. It just might not always be what you actually thought it would be.
George Michael had a very high publicity split from Sony. He took them to court and it was very much in the news.
Also, they talk about the ownership. Who owns the songs? Taylor Swift famously re-recorded all her stuff because she wanted to own them. And I get a sense that there are a lot of things that Angelina has done that she has no longer any ownership of, and she cannot produce them or publicize them. We've heard about cooperation from Stargate, for instance, that they did a whole lot of songs. And where are those? What's happening there? How long time is a production? How long time from you sit in the studio and then you release the record?
With the major releases nowadays, it's not just 12 songs. Even for this record, I'm sure it wasn't just 12 songs that they worked on. Sometimes they'll get 100-ish songs that they'll go through and they'll pick the 12 best. So it is a very long process. And I use that Taylor Swift example in lectures quite often. I do a quick little thing about music business, and if it can happen to her, what makes you think it's not going to happen to you as an artist? There's a difference between owning the copyright, the songwriting aspect of a song, and owning the master, meaning the recording, which usually those proceeds go to the producer and the performer. But you can sell those off, and it's important to understand like that master recording, that's what makes most of the money in the industry, because that's what's being played most often.
One more to listen to.
So this is number 9, No One Can Hear My Heart.
I light a candle in the dark. The shadows still dance on the walls. I whisper secrets to the night, but no one hears my silent calls. My hands are shaking from the cold, This room is full, yet I'm alone. No one can hear my heart when it breaks without a sound. No one can feel this fire burning me from the inside out. I gave it all. I lost it slow. Now all I hold is letting go. The streets remember where we walked. Your echo lingers in the rain. I wear your name like faded ink, still carved beneath my skin like shame. I close my eyes but see you more. Love was a door I can't restore. No one can hear my heart when it breaks without a sound. No one can feel this fire burning me from the inside out. I gave it all. I lost it slow. Now all I hold is letting go. They say time heals, but time just hides. It buries tears behind my eyes. No one can hear my heart. It's breaking every night. No one can feel this fire. Though I'm smiling in the light, I gave it all. I lost it slow. Now all I hold is letting go.
I don't even really want to talk after that. It's one where you just kind of have to sit and ruminate on yourself for a little bit, it seems like.
Well, before I said to you, Jay, that every song you hear would be unexpected, but
Yes.
the next 8 that you haven't heard yet will be in a similar vein. There's not going to be a radical difference for the rest of the album. I think there's a lot of bravery on the part of Angelina and her granny to make this album.
Yeah.
Extremely brave thing to do, because it's like a salmon swimming against the current.
I think the general expectation was that this album would be an album to win Grammys and be played on the radio. It's like a personal thing.
I talk about this all the time. Is this a single or is this more of an album cut? And I mean, with these songs, maybe Home feels like a single, but the rest of them don't. But I say that in a respectful way, because a lot of the times the album cuts, they are the most personal songs to the musician. It's them literally just trying to express themselves and their art and get out whatever it is that they need to get out internally, as opposed to, I need this one to be the one that draws people in, that gets the Billboard plays.
Maybe this album is a sleeper. Maybe it'll stay low key for 6 months or 9 months and then gradually get momentum.
But also, I feel these are classics in the making.
From a lot of the songs, I got a very similar feel to This House Is Not a Home, in exploring that kind of song topic. And this one is very similar to the jazz standard Solitude, which is a thing that I really love about jazz music, and this whole approach of not being so held down to the contemporary Billboard aesthetic way of thinking, where it's like you can explore other topics besides just your typical relationship. I think that's hard to pull off nowadays. I think that is a very brave thing to try to do. Most people just want to sing about or put out what they think other people will immediately relate to, which are breakups and having fun or being sad. Putting out a song about devastating loneliness like this one, that takes a lot of bravery from both of them.
But Lana Del Rey's style is one, she captures loneliness and desolation, doesn't she?
Definitely. But the thing about Lana that you also want to remember is that she's not like a Billboard star. You don't see her often with the Taylor Swifts and those kind of performers. I heard this very eloquent comment about her one time, or astute comment, where it's like she makes bedroom music, but just happens to have a stadium level following of very dedicated fans.
So, Jay, in summary, we have succeeded in surprising you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. With all these songs, even though 3 out of the 4 sounded like it had a similar vibe, I was still surprised at the themes, how well the melodies flowed together, and just the bravery of what they chose to talk about.
I think there's an invisible umbilical cord between Angelina and her granny, and I think that comes out with this album.
I love the album cover as well. This is another aspect of branding and prosody that's really important. The album cover looks like the music. That's generally what you would want to do. Everything should be tied together.
One aspect of this album which surprised me, and it's very evident in the first track, is the instrumentation. I thought it was going to be more stripped back and more basic, but instead it's like an orchestration, and it's violins, and I'm so impressed. How could they have had time to do that kind of treatment of all these songs in basically it feels like a pretty short time?
When you hear records, there's certain records that feel like it's stripped. It's just the artist and maybe a guitar. It feels very live. But this, to me, feels like a studio record. Like there's production behind it, and there's thought about how everything's put together.
It would be so interesting to see behind the scenes of how did they work with this one. Must have been so many hours and so many people also involved. It takes a whole team to do something like this.
Yes.
Well, Jay, I think we may have you back on our podcast before the next album comes out. Whether it's to listen to more songs or once you hear the songs and reply more in depth, that may trigger Pontus and I say, hey, that's a great point, and we could make a whole episode around that.
Once again, I'm so impressed of your insights into the music industry and the songwriting behind it. And
Thank you.
It's so interesting what you speak about these things.
Thank you, Jay. It's been fun, and it's been informative, and it's been entertaining.
Thank you so much for exposing me to this wonderful album. I can't wait to hear the rest of it.
You take care, Jay. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.